Right, so we are here with
Sean Killian from Vio-lence.
Vio-lence, and we will be talking about the history of Vio-lence. When did Vio-lence first form?
They formed in 1984, I believe, with Phil Demmel and Perry Strickland, Jerry Burr. I believe it was, I know Troy Fu was there when I got there, but I think Ed Billy might have been in the band. And I think Dean joined later. I think Ed Billy was playing bass and Dean joined later after Ed left.
What was the big idea behind the band?
You know, they were a band before I started with them, so Jerry Burr left, and I went and tried out for them. I had their lyrics, so I rewrote their lyrics for about 3 songs, and then went and tried out, and they were like, who the hell does this guy think he is? And so Jerry Burr came back to the band, and then he left again about 3 or 4 weeks later, so then Phil, I was at Ruthie's Inn, we were going to see a show, and he was there, and he hit me up to join the band, you know, see if I wanted to try out again. So, yeah, I came back, and then, you know, the part of Vio-lence that, you know, I think attracts people is that we're just raw, and we're thrash. We don't, you know, we want to present, you know, just raw aggression and emotion, and you know, the lyrics are non-compromising, so, you know, sometimes they're offensive, but it's not like when I write the lyrics I think that, oh, that sounds offensive. I just write. I don't even really care about anything other than what I'm trying to, you know, write about and the lyrics that I'm putting down on paper.
How many demo tapes did it take to be noticed?
With me, they did I think they did a demo in the studio, but, you know, it was on some 4-track thing. But then when I joined the band, it was like, well, we got to get a demo out. I think it might have been about 8 months into my stint with them. So then I sold my Marshall half stack to get money. We all scrounged up money to pay to go to Prairie Sun in Katati and record there. They have a place you could stay, so we stayed there for a week and recorded the demo.
At what point do you think the Vio-lence sound was born?
I hate to say it, but probably when I joined the band. But Phil writes great riffs, don't get me wrong. That's what attracted me to the band was, you know, Kill on Command, you know, Eternal Nightmare had some really great riffs, but they weren't called that then. But so when I would go see them, because they'd open up for a lot of bands at Ruthie's, and I would see them, and I really enjoyed the guitar riffs. So, you know, when the opportunity came up, well, we hung out, we worked together actually. So when the opportunity came up, you know, I tried to jump on it. So.
You know, you are correct, because, I mean, your vocals were very significant. It really elevated the band from a lot of bands that were coming up at that time. Even if people didn't like your vocals, they still noticed them.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like them. And I mean, it was a 50-50 thing. You either love us or hate us. And, you know, especially back then. There was no, you know, social media or anything like that where people who liked it could step up and say, hey, I like it. So all you had was like Kerrang and, you know, Metal Hammer and other, you know, magazines, and if whoever was writing the article for that magazine didn't like you, that's what you got.
Yeah.
You know? There was no rebuttals or, so, you know, and we're fortunate to have people like Stefan Shirazi behind us at the time. He was writing for Kerrang, and that boosted us a lot. You know, his efforts to, you know, help promote us was, you know, he had a lot to do with us getting out there, but. You know, it's just that we just don't sound like other bands.
So how long before MCA Mechanics came on calling?
We were, you know, so we got in tight with the people at the Stone and the Omni, you know, the Nadies, and they were giving us a lot of the touring acts that were coming through town. So we got to play with Creator and Voivod and GBH and a lot of cool bands, and. You know, I think it was that helped us get elevated, you know, so those people did help us a lot by putting us on good bills, because we were drawing a crowd, you know, at the time before the demo, we could probably draw about 150 people, you know, so, and then after the demo came out, we were really pushing the demo for free, you know, giving it to people, and we had it down at the Record Vault, and, you know, it started getting people to notice us and being played on KUSF, And, you know, it's, it was that kind of, I think, got us enough people to come to the shows where, you know, the Navy started giving us some really serious shows, and then the labels were coming by because, you know, when you're getting that kind of attention from a club in the Bay Area, and the Bay Area thrash scene is like at its peak, you know, with Testament and, you know, Exodus and Slayer, and because I consider Slayer a Bay Area band, you know, Megadeth coming through town and Metallica. When you start getting those kind of shows, then, you know, you get more attention. And I think that's where Stefan Shirazi might have came across this. And we knew Debbie Abono. You know, we had our competition with Forbidden and Death Angel. It was a healthy competition, but when you're young, it's all, you're all full of testosterone. So it was all, you know.
So Eternal Nightmare comes out. Want to show the album and tell us all we need to know about it? So,
well,
there it is.
This is the album.
The memorable cover.
Yeah.
They got the ball rolling.
We had these songs written, you know, they're on the demo, some of them, and we had written a lot of these songs. So we had 8 songs going on here. One of them got pulled. I want to say, if I remember right, Torture Tactics was on this, and it got pulled. And then we tried to get it on a pressing, and it got pulled. So that's why it's got 7 songs on it. But yeah, this was a great, we recorded down in Melrose. I forget the name of the studio, it'll come to me, but we did all the drums and guitars, and then we went up to San Francisco, and, you know, John Kunaberty was the producer. We went to San Francisco, did the leads, did the vocals, and he mixed it there. I think he did a great job, because I don't know that he'd ever done thrash metal before. He did Joe Satriani and, you know, some other folks like that, but he gave us a really good sound on this record. But, you know, these were the songs that got us the opportunity to make this record, you know.
Now, a great tour followed with Testament to introduce you to a wider audience. How did that go?
That tour went great. You know, Testament was drawing a good crowd, and we were able to get up there and really pump them up and, you know, get a lot of attention from, you know, their draw, you know, their ability to, you know, pack houses. And I forget what record, it was their second record that we toured with them on, I believe. And so anytime, I mean, when you're touring with a band like Testament and people come to see them, then they come and then they see you, and then you get that exposure. And that was a great tour for us in regards to that. And they put us on the road in a small van and with all our equipment. So you, as a young man, you learn a lot of lessons.
Sure.
Not everything goes your way when you're in a small ass van with,
No.
you know, other people and your equipment.
So, how did you feel Eternal Nightmare did overall?
You know, I don't know. I don't really count the numbers. I know it came out pretty good, but it's you know, it's I think it did good because, look, we're still talking about it, you know.
Yeah, obviously.
I mean, maybe back then, not as good as we had hoped, but, you know, like I said, you either loved us or you hated us. And so then, but it did give us, this was our baby right here.
Any fun stories from that first tour? I mean, obviously, you're no longer local. You in the van, driving all over the country?
Driving along the country, going to different places, dealing with humidity and dealing with giant cockroaches down in Florida and all kinds of crazy stuff. And it was enlightening, that's for sure. You learn, you know, I'll give this to young bands, you know, you're playing and then you're getting some attention and stuff, and then you go on the road, and I think we did, it might have been 36 shows in 42 days. It was a lot. And so you get put through that ringer together, and you learn a lot about each other that you didn't know before.
What would you say were like the first memorable shows while being on a big tour?
I would say we played in Washington, D.C. Man, what was the name of that club? It's right down the street from where John Wilkes Booth jumped out of the window. 930
Club?
Yeah, 930 Club. Yeah. Yes, thank you. So Testament, I can't remember the reason why they didn't go on. I think Chuck might have had a problem, but might have been sick or something. So we went on. Well, we only had 7 songs, so we played the set twice. But there was a train of people stage diving, coming around the side, going up the stairs onto the stage and diving out. No one was coming over the top. they were going around on these stairs. So it was like a constant, like a line of stage timers that never stopped, while we were playing. And then, of course, we played the set twice, and I think everyone there got a kick out of it because it was a good night. The crowd was pleased at the end of the night, even though they were kind of disappointed the Testament didn't play. But that's a show I won't forget. I
remember your performance at the Milwaukee Metal Fest, which was extremely energy.
Yeah,
based.
It was fun. I think we went back there a second time later on. We got back together for Chuck's, the Thrash of the Titans. But yeah, it's that was always a cool gig. Unfortunately, it's not around anymore. It would be cool if it was, but I remember we were across the street at the bar at the hotel, and I guess that's the hotel bar where Jeffrey Dahmer was picking up people.
Yeah, he was definitely
around that same
living
time,
in that neighborhood.
Actually.
Yes.
Yeah, he was in the neighborhood. Yeah, we might have been sitting in the bar with him.
Okay. So how did you go about writing the songs for the follow-up?
It was Eternal Nightmare. Rob contributed to the music of Calling in the Corner. That was his song, and I wrote all the lyrics. So the Oppressing the Masses, there was more Rob and Phil combining, with the riffs and creating the music. For me, I was still, writing the lyrics and, coming up with the vocal patterns and all that good stuff. So for me, it really didn't change much other than, we tried to tell, oh no, we're a little bit more calm now, a little more controlled. And I remember Alex Perialis flew out to see us in the studio because he recorded and mixed it. And we played a few songs for him. He's all, I thought you guys mellowed out. So I'll never forget that one.
Now, one thing that did change was you were on a different record label.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Because, you had a major deal with MCA, and then you end up on Atlantic, I believe.
So Mechanics Records, we did Eternal Nightmare, and then that's the thing with Vio-lence. We're just a hardcore thrash band, so, we don't comply. And so when Mechanics, like Steve Sinclair, rewrote some of my lyrics, he called me at home and kind of went through them. Yeah, would you want to hear them? I'm all, of course I want to hear them. And then he went through the lyrics, and then I immediately called Debbie Abono. That was kind of the end of that. You can't change us. It's like they got the first record. They wanted to do some changes to the band, and we're just not that kind of a band. And same thing with we were on Megaforce. They took Oppressing of the Masses. John Zazula wanted my vocals to sound a certain way. I don't know. I really didn't. I mean, he wanted me to re-record the record, and that wasn't going to happen. The problem with some of these guys is they come see you live. It's very exciting at the shows. You record your music, and then, again, he wanted to change the band. He wanted me to re-record the vocals, and it was like, well, we're not that kind of a band. We are who we are.
So, Oppressing the Masses, you want to show the album and tell a few more things about that? At this point, you were on new label. There was a video clip involved on MTV.
Yeah, World in a World. We shot part of it at the Stone in San Francisco and part of it in a studio in San Francisco. But yeah, it was it's a great effort. I think my lyrics got a little bit more intense because I was, you're starting to grow as a musician, and when you're writing lyrics, you're a writer. So I naturally started writing a little bit more intense and thought out lyrics, and the riffs are just great on this record. Top to bottom, the riffs are excellent, and that was because there was a combination of both Rob and Phil writing together. And we were going for we just wanted to be the heaviest band in the Bay Area, period. There was not going to be another band that was going to be heavier than those dudes. And so that was always our goal, and yeah, it was, so Eternal Nightmare was like, this is where we became a band, and then this is where we had to write a record, and we kind of grew as musicians and created this. So it became a thing where you're a young bunch of guys wanting to get a chance, and you're playing live shows, and into a chance where now you're actually writing your second record, and things change. It's not as free flowing as that first record. You're more thought out. You're you have a mission, you know, to write this record.
When you look back at this album, are you completely happy with it?
Yeah, I like this album a lot. It's. I wish Torture Tactic was on it, you know, but you know,
and
some people aren't brave enough.
Yeah. Speaking of Torture Tactics, that was the kind of the big controversy, and you released that as a separate EP. If you want to show that, which I have there. So the song finally did come out, but there was a lot of issues with censorship, I believe, right?
Well, what happened was Megaforce had it. Atlantic didn't want it on the record, so they pulled it. And then Megaforce let us take the song and go out, and they helped us shop it to this label that put it out for us. I don't think it was that they didn't want to release it. They just, you know, when you have those labels and there's a subsidiary to a large label, that they don't want to mess up that relationship over a band called Vio-lence. So, you know, we got to put this out. We threw a couple extra songs on it. The lyrics are in it, which is great because I always want people to read the lyrics when it comes to Vio-lence. Yeah, but I don't even know how many records we sold of anything, to tell you the truth, but I think it did pretty good.
Speaking of sales, were you accommodated financially for all these sales?
No. We sold our publishing on this record, and that's the only time we ever got any money. And that's why we don't have this. We don't own the rights to this, so we could put it back out. Atlantic owns the rights to it, and they're not doing. You know, we tried to get them to give us, you know, an offer so we could buy it back, but they wouldn't do that. And, so it sits at Atlantic, and it's not being pressed, and we can't press it. But you know, it's out there. You can find it on, you know, you can find it on Amazon or some others. But it's a different cover, is the thing. When it's yeah, the digital cover on there is a lot different. So I think people see that cover and they don't realize that Depressing the Masses, the full album's on it.
Yeah. Now, 2 years later, things change. Grunge came in and put the end to a lot of things that were happening on MTV, in metal. How did it affect Vio-lence?
Well, that's where we kind of compromised, because at the time it was like, well, the label's demanding this and wants this, and you know, we're not grunge, of course, we're not going to sound like anything like that, but you know, we were getting pushed really hard to change our sound, or we wouldn't have a label. So we wrote Nothing to Gain. I think it's good music. I just you know, Michael, he didn't jive with us that well as a group, you know, because we're out of control sometimes, especially when we're all around each other. So it was tough to, you know, get what we were looking for, and we were all stressed out because, you know, of the labels and their approach. And we're not the only band that happened to. Yeah. So then we did this. I would like to re-record it because I think I could make it a lot heavier, the vocals. But you know, that's where you get pushed into a corner, and then they didn't even put the record out, Megaforce.
It was very difficult to find.
Yeah, we had to.
It still is.
We released it on a label in Europe. I forget what the name of the label is. Phil struck that deal just to get it on the shelves, you know.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways that album went completely unnoticed. A lot of people didn't even know it was out.
Yeah.
Or still don't.
No, they still don't. Yeah, and there's some good songs on it. Like I said, you know, you're under that pressure of and that's music, you know, the sounds change. It's just the way it is. And so the sound went from, you know, the heavy thrash and stuff to the grunge. And, you know, then you're asked to be something that you're not, and that's where we compromise, and that's where I think we made a mistake, was to compromise. We should have just stuck to our guns, because in the end, they didn't even release the record, and, you know, so it's like, okay, well, so we made some adjustments so we can actually release the record, and then they didn't even release the record. So it was like a waste of time for us. But again, there are some killer riffs on here. There's some good songs. But yeah, I would like to re-record it.
What happened next?
Then, you know, for me, it was just like, you know, at the time, the industry was way different than it is today. So, you know, you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, why am I doing this? You know, if every time I do it, the labels kick us off their, you know, they don't like it, you know. And you move from one label to the next label to the next label. It's like, that's really not making music. And we'd written some songs that went on the Torque album, So we had like 4 songs that Phil and I wrote, and Ray contributed to one of them. And then it's just kind of like, oh, this seems futile, you know, to go up against these labels. And you're not a band that sounds like anyone else, so they all want, it's like they think there's a recipe, but, you know, none of them are musicians.
Yeah.
You know, and unfortunately you get caught in that.
So
then I just was like, you know, I'm not down with this, and yeah.
So when did Vio-lence split up?
When I left,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was probably around 93, 94. And then, you know, like I said, Phil took those songs and he wrote and produced and, you know, got the record, the Torque record out.
Right. So for many years, nothing happened, but all of a sudden, there is a Vio-lence reunion. Can you tell me how that came about?
Well, there was the Chuck Billy benefit, the Thrash of the Titans, and you know his good buddy Walter Morgan. He called Phil and asked if we would reunite, and we hadn't played in 9 years. So then we did reunite for that show, and it was a great response. And then Phil and I were like, well, we should book a show and see what happens. So we booked Slim's. It sold out, and then, you know, we got some opportunities to tour with Rob Halford and Testament and Death Angel, Overkill and Excel during that time. We started writing some songs, and then that's when Rob called Phil to ask him to join Machine Head. And, you know, Phil said, well, you know, Rob's asking me to join. I was like, hey, dude, you're a musician. I wasn't in my backyard at 15 years old wearing silver spandex trying to play music.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was what he was up to. So then he joined Machine Head, and 15 years later he left Machine Head, and that's when I was driving home from work. So he did a couple shows with Slayer to help Slayer out with when Gary was going through some personal stuff with his father or his family. So Phil stepped in, and then I think he played like 3 or 4, maybe 5 shows. I can't remember, but when he was back home, that's when I was thinking to myself, well, geez, I'm going to contact Phil now because someone else is going to ask him to join the band, and then I won't have a chance to get back on stage with, you know, Vio-lence. So I sent him a text, and here we are.
Yeah,
yeah,
great.
we did the reunion show I think it was April 13th and 14th at the Metro in Oakland in 2019.
Now, I also understand you went through some health problems. Can you
Yeah,
elaborate
I
on that?
had my liver. I had stage 4 cirrhosis. There was no turning back.
Mm-hmm.
I had blood disorder that you get from your parents. It's genetic. It's called alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. So it's a protein that cleans your liver cells and your lung cells, and then you just piss it out. You know, all those toxins. But my body didn't make that protein. So after, you know, so many years, it just killed my liver. And, you know, then I was in some pretty bad shape for about 18 months, and then you know, I went to UCSF. You know, my doctor referred me there. They have a big program for transplants, and they do living donor transplants. So we kind of pursued that route, and then when I got approved to be on the list, they started testing, you know, the transplant list. They started testing the people that were submitting to be living donors for me. And so the one that actually I have, you know, saved my life basically was Kevin Rivero, Dana's brother. And yeah, here I am because of him. It was a selfless act on his part. He gave up 63% of his liver.
So you're a true miracle sitting in front of me.
Yeah. Took me 6 months to recover. You know, I was pretty bad shape. You know,
Yeah.
after my
I would
surgery.
see your posts on Facebook, and yeah, those were, I mean, honestly, I'm very surprised to see this reunion happen based on those photos. I was thinking, this might be it.
Yeah, well, it might have been it, and I don't know. When you're at that point, it's just like, well, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So I'm not going to live the rest of my life stressed out or, you know, in fear of what could happen to me. It's like, so all I did was listen to what my doctors told me to do, and, you know, and yeah, so I had the surgery. After my surgery, I think I was 134 pounds. And, you know, my surgeon said, you're going to lose some weight right after the surgery, but you're going to have to eat as much calories as you can So I was eating all kinds of ice cream and crap food, and you know, fast food, anything that had the most calories is what I was looking for. And I would eat and eat and eat, and then I'd get on the scale and it'd be like, oh, you're still 134. It's like, it got to the point where like, I didn't even want to get on the fucking scale. You know, it was driving me crazy. But, you know, slowly but surely I gained my weight and my strength back. And, you know, I was on a walker for about 3 weeks. So, and I had to have a couple of other surgeries after that surgery.
How did that affect your voice?
Not at all that I could tell. Yeah. You know, like I said, that alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, it's a protein that cleans your liver cells and your lung cells, and people that have COPD have that problem, you know, that same problem. It's not that, so I have some breathing issues, but, you know, it's kind of trippy because people go, how does he do that? You know, spit out lyrics so fast, but I just been doing it so long, it's just, you know, it's not, it's not a lot of effort, you know, that I have to put out to sing the songs that we wrote. So, but yeah, I get a little winded sometimes, and you know, but here I am. I mean, shit.
Finally, what does the future hold for Vio-lence?
So we have we're working with Metal Blade Records. We got the EP coming out next year, and we're trying to hit the first quarter there of next year. Later in the first quarter, and we're writing some songs now. We got some shows booked. We're trying to book some more shows now. We'll be in South America in September of next year. We're on a couple festivals, trying to get on a few more. We think what's going to happen is once the record comes out, we should be getting a lot more offers, but we had to cancel some shows when we got COVID, so we're trying to get those rescheduled in LA and move from the San Diego show to Vegas. And we have Portland and Seattle to get rescheduled too. But, you know, we're just trying to book shows and write music. You know, it's not like we're trying to book big tours, but we'll see what comes to us after people hear the music. So we're trying to get out a lyrical video first, and then another full video shoot later on in January, I think. And so when those two songs come out, I think it's going to start getting people looking at us, and you know, we'll see what comes up. But I just wanted to write music. I love writing music and recording. We had a great session, you know. We got some new guys in the band that really bring a lot to it. You know, they contribute a lot. It's like, you know, you're suddenly like with some serious musicians, and everything comes together, and you're like, wow, that's exactly how I hoped it'd sound. You know,
sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Go Vio-lence fans. We'll be seeing you soon, I'm sure. Look for the record.